Okay, so we're loading WizBall. I did, so let me just turn the volume down a bit. I did edit this out because there's a lot of cracked screens and all that. So yeah, it's a fully 99.99% compatible Commodore 64. I'm sort of got one hand on the camera and one hand on the joystick, so I'm not really going to be demonstrating this game really much. We've all seen it, we all know what it does. Okay, so this is it as a Commodore 64. I've got nothing in the way of 128 software except Elite 128, which you need to sort of play in Commodore 64 mode. But, you know, I can link you to a good review of that anyway. So, what else can the 128 do? Right, okay. So, let's reset this into 128 mode. Okay, I'll reset the SD2 IEC. Oh, there we go, that's reset. So we'll load up you see there's 122 bytes free. Obviously a bit is reserved for basic, etc, etc. Obviously it's an 8-bit processor. It can only address 64K at a time, but it did do what the BBC Master did and do bank switching. Right, okay, so another feature of the 128 is it has a dual CPU in it. Yes, it's got a 6502 compatible. Don't ask me the exact number because I can't remember off the top of my head. But it has a Z80 CPU at 4 MHz as well. And the reason that was put in was it could run CPM software or any customized software written to take advantage of it. So what I'm going to do, I've got a few CPM discs here. Okay, I'm going to put my SD2 IEC into disk swap mode by holding these two. And then I can either reset the 128 or I can just type in boot like that. And this will boot into CPM mode. It's not the slowest process, not the fastest process in the world to boot into this, but there was a hell of a lot of CPM software about, mainly business applications. There was SuperCalc spreadsheet, there was a word processor database. There was Fortran, Pascal, and even C compilers for it, and you could even write stuff in Z80 assembly, and CPM could compile that for you as well. We'll just wait for this to boot. It's still going. The SD2 IC's gone green. This is a 1541 version of it I've got. The 128 could run a Commodore 1571 drive, which is a little bit nippier. Okay, and here we are, we're nearly there. We're in 40 column display, and I'll explain what that's all about in a minute. There we go, we're now in CPM. Let's do a directory, and there's our directory. So we're using like DOS type commands on here. What I'll do is let's flip this up a disk. Now if I do a DIR again, this should be a disk with a game on it. It'll take a minute to work out as a new disk, and there we go, and it's Zork. Zork 1, idiot. That James.dat file there is my save game. I've been playing it quite a bit. It's taken me back. It's a pretty good text adventure game by Infocom, one of their first commercial ones. Okay, now you can see this is not the fastest way of loading things, but it seems to be okay once it's loaded. As I say, we live in the 21st century PC world where everything apart from your operating system loads up in less than a second. I'll tell you what I do like about this while we're waiting for that is I just like the look of it. It's a pretty decent looking machine. This one's in reasonable condition. As you can see, I'm pretty sure they based the Amiga 500 on the look of this. It's still got the sort of Commodore 64 layout. See, I find the shift key there awkward, having typed on a modern keyboard for 20 years. You know, I keep hitting the Commodore key. But you've got these keys up here which are native to the 128: escape, tab, alt, caps lock, even though you've got a shift lock there. Help, line feed, 4080, no scrolls, and more cursor keys. None of these keys here work in 64 mode, and these are F keys which do, and the number pad as well. Again, this bit here doesn't work in Commodore 64 mode either, but these do. These are used instead of the big F keys you're used to on the 64. Okay, then, so here we are with Zork. So this is what we got in Commodore CPM mode. Okay, now something else I want to show you. I've got another device into it, which is a display adapter here. And it's powered off the little adapter for the user port. Okay, because there's another display port here which is RGBI, which unfortunately not many modern sort of display devices can handle. This is in the sort of CGA era, and what that is a much higher resolution display. And the C128, as well as having dual CPU, it has dual video controllers. It has the VIC-2, which is used for Commodore 64 mode and Commodore 128 mode, which you can see here. But also, it uses RGBI for a separate mode called 80 column mode. So what I'm about to do is give you a quick demonstration of that. So we'll flick over to AV1, where it's into at the moment. We'll hit the 4080 button there, okay, and we'll reset the machine. And here we have it. It's a much crisper, clearer display, and it was even better on a proper monitor. I had the green Commodore 1541, well, 1080 something on a monitor, which was green monochrome, but it certainly looked good on that. So I should probably be able to boot CPM up for you. Okay, there's also some sort of native non-CPM titles for the C128. 80 column mode. I think there's a Tetris game, there's something else. So I'm going to quickly show you this, and I'll show you one other title as well. And also there's a way to sort of speed this up a bit, because what it does in this mode, it runs the 40 column display as well. I could switch over to the other input where the RGB DIN is down there, and you'd see a display there as well, but it obviously wouldn't be active, but it would still display things. So we'll just let this finish off. And what it does, it by default, once this is booted up, it changes the font colour to pink, which my TV really doesn't like. There we go. As you can see on here, we are on the 80 column display now. When you're ready, okay, so we'll do a directory, make sure we've got everything here. Right, now if you see on the second column there's a function called screen 40. And what that does is you can turn the 40 column screen off during this session, which does free up a lot of processor cycles. And we'll run screen 40 disable. See this horrible pink colour? I don't know how it'll look from the phone camera, but what I'm going to do is switch over to cyan, back to how it was. Okay, I'm going to flip back to my Zork disk, do a directory. Yeah, so you can see the colour change there. You can see how much more you can sort of see on the screen. I must mention the reason I'm using 16:9 resolution instead of 4:3 is because my TV is so crap here that if I run anything in 4:3 through a SCART interface or anything like that, if it's a black background, it dims it so much you can't physically see what's going on, and there's no way round that. I've got onto user groups with Sony, I've done a firmware update, no good. Can't get rid of it. Yeah, firmware update in your telly, who'd have thought it? Right. Okay, well, I mean, the loading bit should be pretty much the same, but this is running, I believe, at 4 megahertz using the Z80 CPU, which is not too bad at all, considering 64 mode runs at 1 megahertz. The C128 mode runs at 1 megahertz in 40 column mode, because again it's limited by the VIC chip. But running in 80 column mode, it does run at 1 megahertz. But you type a command called saying fast and it will double up to 2. So your basic programs, unless they're, you've got some really awkward peaks and pokes in, which are designed for the VIC chip, will run twice as fast. Yeah, I do apologise for the loading time here. It's quite a big game. Okay, here we go, and we're into Zork. Here we go. It's very hard filming and typing at the same time. In fact, I'm looking at what I'm typing on the phone screen rather than the... There we go. Okay. Well, you've seen enough of CPM mode. I wish I had some more CPM software here at the moment to demonstrate, but I haven't. Okay, so one more thing I will show you. Just going to reset this back and reset the machine. Okay, I'm going to pause for editing for loading time. Right, okay, so I pause there for loading. Sorry about the jerky video. Okay, oh, get into focus for Christ's sake. Okay, let's run this now. This is a demo that uses not the VIC chip, but the VDC chip, which is the display controller for 80 columns. So I'm going to run this. Tells me what I've got. Risen from Oblivion. Now I've got the standard 16K controller in this. Okay, but you can get an upgrade for 64K. Now look at the graphics on this. Okay, at the moment the resolution doesn't seem brilliant, but the colours do seem a lot more vivid than you'd get on a Commodore 64. One thing I will mention is I haven't connected the audio out from the RGB socket. So that will only come out the RGB socket in 40 column mode. I can split them so it'll go out from here as well, but I haven't done such a thing yet. Okay, but yeah, there we go. Look at these graphics. That is sharp. That is almost like looking at an Amiga. To me, that is pretty impressive. I mean, an 8-bit machine that was out sort of a couple of years before the Amiga, this is pretty staggering. I mean, I'm used to Commodore 64, BBC Micro and the Amstrad CPC, but look, the detail, the colours and the resolution is awesome. It's a shame we haven't got the sound, but it is just standard SID music. And they're sort of using almost coppering to do it, so, you know, I mean, look at the colours, how bright and vivid they are compared with the standard sort of Vic chip colours. And bearing in mind, I've stretched the picture as well in order for it to not start dimming. I mean, here you wouldn't be able to see that loading, it would dim it, so you wouldn't be able to see it if I had it in 4:3. Yeah, I mean, look at that. That is pretty staggering. Let's step back a bit just to give you sort of an idea. That is pretty awesome. And this is the VDC controller. I mean, yeah, you haven't got the amount of colours with my 16K chip as you do have on an Amiga, but I'm well informed that if you have the upgrade that you do get a much bigger colour palette to choose from. And bearing in mind the Amiga 500 could only display 16 colours at once out of a possible 4096 in the standard mode, unless you went to hand mode or anything else like that, which flickered like hell, unless you had the better Amiga, which I won't go into at the moment. We're going to do separate Amiga videos. And there's the credit. So that's the demo. Look, you can flick the joystick to speed this up. See, look at that. Slow it down. Look at the resolution on that. Those fonts. That's a Commodore 128. This is a Commodore 8-bit machine. Okay, well, there we have it. This is the Commodore 128. A failure commercially by Commodore, but I had one back in the day and it was a pretty good machine. And what let it down mostly was it was released too near the Amiga when they probably could have done it a year earlier. And because it had Commodore 64 mode, there was not much incentive for developers to write much just for the Commodore 128. So they're probably thinking, well, if we write this for the Commodore 64, then people on a 128 and a 64 can play it. So not many software titles took advantage of the hardware on it. But here we go. This is the Commodore 128, and I'll see you on the next video.